Alright guys, the moment you've been waiting for is finally here. Today I will be counting down the top 50 roller coasters I have ever ridden. Well, sort of. This will be part 1, and the next video I upload in 2 days will be part 2. So I should probably anticipate this part will have spots 50 to 25 in it, and I absolutely cannot wait to get things started. If you guys remember last year, I uploaded a top 50 coasters list for my first time, and the video performed quite well on the channel. Unfortunately, that video is now removed from the platform due to copyright reasons, which is unfortunate because it would have been really fun to compare the old list to the new list. With that being said, I've got my updated one and I'm so excited to share it with you all. There are a couple of disclaimers before we dive in. The first is that this is all my personal opinion and that I completely understand if you have some different preferences. Always know that you are more than welcome to drop your rankings and thoughts down in the comments, and I'll try to respond to as many of them as I can. Also, it's probably important to note that I haven't even touched Europe, Asia, and Australia yet, and I still have some major parks to get to in North America. Parks that stand out in North America with rides that could have made this list include Kings Island, Holiday World, Kentucky Kingdom, both Great Americas, Mount Olympus, and numerous others including chain and independent parks. I do still have a couple smaller coaster trips planned for the rest of the 2021 season, but all of the big ones are out of the way, which is why I think now is a good time to make this video. Of course, there will be a further updated top 50 list next year when I have gotten out to more of North America's major parks and possibly some outside the continent. For now though, I do hope you all enjoy this list. Real quick, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, guys, and let's dive right in. These are my top 50 roller coasters I've ridden, part 1. Number 50, Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America. In my eyes, this is one of the most underrated hypercoasters around. I'm sure everything I'm about to say will apply to the Ride of Steel over at Darien Lake too, but seriously guys, this is an awesome cloned ride. I absolutely love the speed and low-to-the-ground nature of the layout, even if it is rather unconventional. I also love the super solid moments of airtime sprinkled throughout the course, including the sustained ejector moment on this incredible camelback mid-ride. Without a doubt, this is Six Flags America's best roller coaster, along with Maryland's, and I think coaster enthusiasts need to stop sleeping on it. Number 49, Volcano the Blast Coaster at King's Dominion. To this day, I'm still saddened that this incredible launch coaster is no longer around with us. Still, the legacy of the ride sits in my memories, especially when I think of my one front row ride I got on this thing. The launches were phenomenal, really the entire first half was phenomenal, and the rolls in the second half were really fun too. It sucks that this ride is getting close to falling out of my top 50, but nonetheless, I will always remember this incredible defunct roller coaster. Number 48, Monster at Adventureland. This Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster is what I deem to be the best Gerstlauer in America after just one ride. I instantaneously fell in love with Monster's layout with the immaculate hang time, great positive Gs, solid but quirky pacing, and a very smooth ride experience. Plus, getting to appreciate the elements with just a little lap bar, unlike something like TMNT Shellraiser at American Dream Mall, which just barely missed the list, was a serious treat. This is without question the best coaster in all of Iowa. Number 47, Steel Eel at SeaWorld San Antonio. Originally I had Texas Stingray over this Morgan Mini Hyper, but after giving it some thought, I think Steel Eel is the more crazy ride. The Flojector airtime, and I really mean Flojector airtime, is just tons of fun, being repeated over and over again on every hill. For me personally, this is the true star of SeaWorld San Antonio now, and one of the best rides manufactured by Morgan ever. Number 46, Storm Runner at Hersheypark. I got to ride this coaster for the first time in 2018, and finally, after waiting numerous years, I was able to check it out again in 2021. And I think I forgot just how powerful this ride is. It absolutely has zero dead spots in my opinion. You've got your crazy intense launch, awesome top hat and drop, crazy unique inversions, and a killer finale with those snappy low turns. Absolutely, I love Storm Runner. What a fantastic intimate creation and one of the best rides in the park. Number 45, Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm. From one intimate to another, this coaster is an even wilder launch than Storm Runner that takes riders from 0 to 82 miles per hour in 2.3 seconds. This is easily one of the best launches on any coaster in the world. In addition, the two overbank turns afterwards may not have been as inspired as Storm Runner's inversions, but I still find myself graying out on every ride. Not gonna lie, I have to start being more appreciative to have Accelerator so close to home. Number 44, Cannibal at Lagoon. At first glance, this ride seems like it would be a Gerstlauer or something, but no, it's actually a fully in-house creation. This means that Lagoon built this ride themselves, and how they came up with some of these elements is beyond me. Try one of the steepest beyond vertical drops in the world at 116 degrees taken from hypercoaster heights, and a stretched out implement, a crunched up dive loop, and the world's only Lagoon roll. Cannibal is all sorts of messed up, and I absolutely loved every second of it, marathoning it 26 times when I visited the park last year. Number 43, Prowler at Worlds of Fun. Out of all the coasters at this park, this was the one that left a lasting impression on me. I'm not sure why Prowler gets so minimal recognition in the coaster community, but this ride is a powerhouse from start to end. With the exception of a little section towards the middle, you don't seem to slow down one bit, and what you've got sprinkled in the layout is some of GCI's finest turns, airtime hills, and transitions. Prowler is a fully complete terrain wooden roller coaster to me. What a ride. Number 42, Afterburn at Carowinds. Again, I'm not sure why this ride gets so little attention amongst coaster enthusiasts, but Afterburn brings the intensity nearly to the extent of Montu at Busch Gardens Tampa, which seems to get a lot of praise. I'd even go as far as to say that this coaster has some of the most sustained positives and best overall pacing of any invert in the world. Also, bonus points go out to the Batwing element, which, like Montu's, is one of 2 on a B&M invert and is extremely punchy. So in conclusion, this is a snappy, underrated invert that is definitely one of the bigger standouts at Carowinds. Number 41, Copperhead Strike, also at Carowinds. This Mach Rides multi-launch coaster immediately became my favorite Mach roller coaster when I came off, but spoiler alert, that was before I'd ride Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City around a month later. Nonetheless, this coaster does just about anything you could want one of Mach's launch coasters to achieve. You've got your hang time, you've got your air time, you've got your positives, snappy transitions, theming, and the list goes on. Dare I say, Copperhead Strike turned out to be a perfect roller coaster for what it's worth. Number 40, Thunderhead at Dollywood. Easily one of the most intense GCIs in the country, this coaster gets better as it charges through the layout. Most coasters, and even some GCI, seem to lose steam as they get closer to the final brake run, but that is not at all the case with Thunderhead. I absolutely love the layout of this ride so much. I love its airtime, laterals, transitions, and it even has a little bit of terrain usage. In my personal opinion, Dollywood could not have built a better wooden roller coaster with the space limitations they had to work with. An absolutely phenomenal GCI coaster. Number 39, New Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas. This ride may be the tamest of the RMC coasters I've ridden, but does that mean it isn't an awesome ride? Of course not. New Texas Giant still offers a plethora of sustained airtime moments with a super long ride time and a pretty cool theme. Most of all, it impresses me that RMC, or Rocky Mountain Construction, was able to build a coaster this good on their first attempt. The fact that this is the worst of their coasters that I've ridden and it still cracks my top 40 should be considered a truly incredible statement. Number 38, Alpenguyst at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Talk about a ride that's got more speed than it knows what to do with. Because this ride is so large, it's got so much speed to burn off in the first half to the point where some of these elements feel dangerous. My personal favorite is the Cobra Roll, which is the snappiest and all-time favorite Cobra Roll for me at the moment. Unfortunately, Alpenguyst does slow down quite a bit in the second half, but if anything, it is a breather for the stupidly intense first half that you had just experienced. Number 37, Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the few coasters I've ridden that I've found to be a bit overrated. It really could afford to have much better restraints and also some more speed in the second half, which by the way didn't seem to be a fluke, it's apparently always like that. What I will say is the first half is impeccable with tons of sustained ejector airtime, and if the ride kept the pacing of the first few elements up in the second half, this ride would be perfection. And give it better restraints as I said. But I think Superman the Ride has a lot of potential to be better than it currently is. With that being said though, I was still able to get a serious kick out of this incredible ride. Please remember that it still cracks my top 40. It's still an awesome experience. Number 36, Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast at Six Flags Over Texas. Contrary to what most will tell you, I do not consider New Texas Giant to be the best coaster at Over Texas. That honor instead goes to Mr. Freeze, one of the best shuttle coasters and one of the best cloned coasters in the world. Riding this thing in the front row made for some ridiculous positive G-forces, crazy fast speeds and pacing, and somehow even some airtime. I definitely can't wait to get back to this park for more, or get out to Six Flags St. Louis in the near future for its clone, which by the way, if you've ridden that one, then you can probably substitute that for my number 36 spot on this list. More or less, these two rides are the exact same. But yeah, Mr. Freeze, awesome ride. Number 35, Aftershock at Silverwood. Talk about a crazy shuttle coaster. I know we just talked about Mr. Freeze, but this ride really brings in the intensity. Because of the way the ride works, you can be riding in the back row for a more intense first half and the front row for a more intense second half with additional wind in your face. But no matter where you sit on this ride, expect a pretty wild ride experience. This ride is ridiculously intense and I still stand by Aftershock being one of the most surprising roller coasters I may have ever ridden. Number 34, Incredible Hulk at Universal's Islands of Adventure. I'll be honest, I didn't expect the ride to rank as high as it did, but all I needed was one back row ride and the second most sustained grail moment I've ever experienced, just behind Intimidator 305's first turn at King's Dominion. From there on out, I was hooked and I cannot wait to get back to Florida to ride it some more. It's a disorienting blur in the first half, not as wild in the second, but still fun, but come on, you've gotta love the package that this coaster does offer. Number 33, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, also at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Aside from needing a much better name, this ride brings in a themed, immersive experience combined with a super long layout with many tricks up its sleeve. Talk about a drop track, a reverse freefall spike with a backward section, dark ride portions, on-ride audio, and get this, 7 LSM launches. That is more than any other roller coaster in the world, and when you really think about it, there's no wonder why this coaster is as unreliable of a ride as it is. If you do get the chance to ride Hagrids, please take it. It can be a bit of a hassle to get on, but I promise it's more than worth it. Number 32, Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City. As I mentioned earlier, this is now my favorite Mako Rides roller coaster I've ever ridden, and I do not see that changing anytime soon. Also, we were just on the topic of Hagrids, which truly is a full package for a roller coaster, and Time Traveler is literally the exact same story. You've got some awesome clockwork theming, amazing restraints, and an impeccable layout with launches, inversions, and ejector airtime maneuvers. Plus, this is one of the most re-rideable coasters I've probably ever ridden. Because of the spinning trains, you'll end up with a different experience every ride, which is awesome. There are very few other coasters out there where you can say the same, so definitely try to get multiple rides on this incredible launch coaster. Number 31, Gale Force at Playland's Castaway Cove. To this day, Gale Force remains the most underrated roller coaster I've ever ridden. This ride is seemingly perfect in what it's trying to achieve, but funny enough, it seems like it can't make up its mind in what forces it's trying to pull. Because of the shaping of some of these elements, you get some absolutely wild ejector airtime, including moments of lateral airtime, and you've got some very enjoyable launches as well. I really don't care how this thing used to run when it opened. You've all got to come out here and give Gale Force a chance because seriously, this ride is running better than it ever has before. Number 30, Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa. From 2018 to onwards, Montu has been my #1 B&M invert I've ever ridden. Until I go overseas, I don't exactly see that changing because this ride has a perfectionist layout. You've got stupidly intense and sustained positive Gs, many whippy inversions, the incredible aforementioned batwing element, and a bunch of unique and themed trenches. For a while, this was my favorite ride in the park, obviously excluding Gwazi, and although it doesn't hold that title anymore, it's still absolutely an incredible inverted roller coaster. Number 29, Phoenix at Canobie's. The star attraction of the park and one of Pennsylvania's premier thrill rides is this old wooden roller coaster that provides a ride experience that is unlike what you'd expect. Due to the ride's minimal buzzbar restraints, the sheer quantity and quality of the airtime is absolutely absurd. I don't think there is another coaster anywhere that will make you laugh as much just because it's so ridiculous how high up you come out of your seat. Phoenix is such a memorable coaster and such a memorable park, and it's a ride that I recommend all of you to experience at some point in your life. Number 28, Boulder Dash at Lake Compounds. Slightly one-upping Phoenix is another wooden roller coaster I've ridden, this one being the best CCI or Custom Coasters International coaster I've ridden. It also happened to be the only one on the list because Tremors barely missed the cut. Boulder Dash's layout as incorporated into the side of a mountain is one of the strongest and most creative on any wooden coaster out there. In addition, there's some fierce laterals, some wild bursts of ejector airtime, and the coaster runs like a dream. Not too smooth, not too rough, but just exactly what you'd want to give a stupidly out of control experience in the woods. So what an awesome wooden coaster this is. Once again, it's a ride I'd recommend all of you to experience in your lifetime. Number 27, Kumba at Busch Gardens, Tampa. I talked about Montu no longer being my #1 in the park, and that's because Kumba blew my expectations out of the water this past visit. I just could not believe how intense and how whippy this coaster rides in the back row. From the positive Gs to the pool and the inversions, Kumba is a wild adventure through the back section of Busch Gardens. Truth be told, Bolliger and Mabillard does not make coasters like they used to. Number 26, Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. I am completely in love with this ride, and I'm sure most of you guys who have ridden it can hear me out on this one. Other than the second half, which honestly could afford to be better, I can't say I'd change anything to make Mako a better ride. You've got some of the most sustained floater airtime on the first couple of camelbacks, you've got a crazy awesome speed hill element, you've got some super fast speeds, and the ride even has a soundtrack to build anticipation up the lift hill. Also, this ride runs just as smooth as it did when it first opened, which is always a welcome bonus to any steel roller coaster. With that being said, Mako for the time being is not my favorite B&M hypercoaster, though it does come really close. Number 25, Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland. The last coaster to be featured in part 1 of my top 50 coasters list is a ride that blew my expectations out of the water also. Maybe I just need a re-ride, maybe this coaster was just running extra well, but I remember a quality and quantity of floater that is unparalleled in nearly any coaster I've been on. I also really love that the second half of this ride is much more enjoyable than Mako's second half, which I've made clear I'm really not much of a fan of. Plus, Behemoth happens to have a very similar setting over the water and an equally as impressive color scheme. Whenever the time comes, I look forward to trying this thing out again and seeing if it was just a fluke. Even if it drops below Mako though, I'm sure it'll always sit in my top 50 coasters list. With that being said, we finally made it to the end of part 1 of my top 50 roller coasters I've ridden list. I hope you all enjoyed it. I look forward to reading some of your comments about any surprises you may have found in the rankings or just your thoughts on the coasters in general. As I said in the beginning of the video, I'll try to respond to as many comments as I possibly can, so don't be shy in dropping something below. Also, it would seriously mean the world to me if you can consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, as it really does help me out. With that all being said and done, I applaud you guys for making it to the end. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Definitely remember to stay tuned for part 2, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye everyone.